Hi again, it's Jessie. So this week I'm going to build off what we talked about last week in my nature journaling for science video. And I'm going to give you some tools and some skills to work on to build up your observation practice. So it should go a little faster this time because I'm just giving you directions, which will also be in the video notes. So once again, I would like you to go outside at some point and find an object to observe. I suggest this time something small enough to fit in your hand. So for instance, I have this cool feather that I found. So that's going to be my observation for today. And so grab that object, bring it back in, and then let's get ready to think about it. Okay. Last time, what I had you do was observe your object or sit in a place and observe something very closely. And I wanted you to do 3 things in your observation. So this was just a practice, and I asked you to include words, picture, and numbers in whatever ratio, whatever format you wanted. So if you're more comfortable with words, use more of them. So the first step today is to sketch a picture. We're going to spend the most time on words today. So today I want you to first just sketch a picture and include any numbers you want. And then we're going to spend more time thinking about the words and getting a little deeper into the observation in that way. Okay, go ahead and do that. All right, so let's say you've already drawn your little sketch and you've already taken the time to make some numbers in there. And as always, I'm going to hope that you wrote down the date, the place you are, and also the weather today, right? So today it's a little cooler outside. Maybe you're choosing to do this outside. Awesome, go for it, do the thing. Today we're going to focus on these skills, and we're going to use 3 prompts to work through the skills of observation. So we're going to do I notice, I wonder, and this reminds me of. Okay, so thing number 1 is I notice. I know that I'm making an observation about something when I start a sentence with I notice. And remember how we talked about last time that an observation is really just using all of your senses to learn about an object. So it's not just looking at it, but it's looking, it's feeling, it's smelling, it's listening, perhaps tasting, but as I mentioned, tasting is not one you usually worry about as much with science. So using your senses to learn about a thing. What observation is not, is it's not a judgment call. So it's not an opinion. I'm not saying, oh, this feather's ugly, because that is not objective. And as scientists, we strive for objectivity. So I want you to say what it looks like, but I don't want you to try and make any kind of any judgment on it, okay? So just objective things you notice using your senses. Okay, so I would like you to take a minute and sit with your object and write as many sentences as you can that start with the words I notice. So for instance, with my feather, I might say, I notice that this feather has alternating bands of white and darker color. Or I notice that the edges of the feather here are not quite even. Or I notice that it's soft, but it's softest at the bottom here where there's these little fluffy feathers, these fluffy bits. So things like that. If you get stuck, try shifting your perspective, try using a different sense to get into it, try noticing with all of the senses you feel comfortable engaging with, and just write down as many as you can. So go ahead and do that. All right, you've just noticed a bunch of things about your object. Prompt number 2 is I wonder. So this is where you're starting to form questions about your object. So I want you again, you're gonna take a minute or a couple minutes, however much you want, and you're going to write down as many sentences that start with I wonder about the object that you have in your hand, okay? And so you can use your observations as a way to get started on this if you want to, but don't be afraid to ask any question. Write any question down. What do you wonder? What do you want to know? What kind of bird did this come from? Where was the feather on the bird's body? How did it help it fly? These are all things I might wonder about this feather. So just try and go ahead and write down as many things as you can. Just let your curiosity flow, okay? Go ahead and do that. Okay, and finally, the third part of today's observation is the prompt, "This reminds me of." So you're now going to go back to, you should have a list of things that you notice and things that you wonder about your object. And now you're going to think of as many things as you can that it reminds you of, okay? So where have you seen something like your object before? Was it outside in nature? Was it, I don't know, on a TV show? Was it somewhere else in your life? What does it remind you of? What does it shape? Does its form or function remind you of something else? Be as creative as possible. And so just brainstorm as many different connections as you can of what this object reminds you of. Also, your connections can be to something, an experience that you've had too. It doesn't have to be to a physical object. Just like, what is it jogging in your memory? Be as creative as you want, be as playful as you want. It's all okay. You're just trying to make connections between the object that you've chosen and other things or experiences or moments in your life. Okay? Go ahead and do that. Go. Okay, so now you should have in your journal a sketch of your new object, and you should have some numbers to describe it, but the words that you're using this time should be the "I notice," "I wonder," and "this reminds me of." So now you're not just looking at it and describing it in words, which is what we practiced doing last week, but you're specifically noticing things about it, and you're wondering about it. You're allowing it to lead you to questions, and you're making connections between other things. So think about how this has allowed you to learn about the object and how much it has allowed you to learn. Think about what it might be like to train your own curiosity and train yourself to learn about objects and to learn about things just from observation. And these are the very early steps, again, of the scientific method of working towards this scientific way of thinking and of questioning about the world. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have fun and enjoy this, and I'll see you next time.